If you've ever built an app, you know just how tough it is to get all the pieces working together. But you know what? After all that work, one of the biggest challenges is still waiting for you, actually managing in-app subscriptions. So today, we're going to break down the complex backend architecture you need to get this right, not just on one platform, but across all of them. Let's dive in. And honestly, this is the question, isn't it? As a developer, you want to focus on building an awesome experience for your users, not get tangled up in a dozen different payment systems. But the reality is, getting paid for your work can seriously feel like you're building a whole separate, complicated app all on its own. So before we can talk about the solution, we really have to get a feel for the problem. And trust me, it's not just a problem, it's a maze. Let's take a look at what developers are really up against here. Okay, just look at this list. The real kicker here is that every single one of these platforms, Apple, Google, Stripe, you name it, they all speak their own completely different language. They've got different SDKs, totally unique receipt formats, and their own weird ways of letting your server know when someone renews or cancels. For a developer, this is an absolute nightmare. It means building and maintaining a totally separate pipeline for each one. So what you really need isn't just one more integration. No way. You need something smarter. You need a system that acts like a universal translator for payments. You know, something that can speak Apple's language and Google's and Stripe's, and then translate it all back into one simple, consistent language that your app can actually understand. Right, so that brings us to the big question. How do you actually build this universal translator? What does the architecture for a system that can juggle all this complexity actually look like? Well, from a bird's eye view, it's beautifully simple. Your app stops talking directly to all those different stores. Instead, it only has one conversation with this one unified system. This system then becomes the ultimate middleman, taking on the entire burden of talking to each individual store so your app doesn't have to. And inside that middleman system, you've got these core components that make the magic happen. Think of it like a highly specialized pit crew. You've got the purchase handler that catches the transaction right away, a receipt validator that acts like the team's security guard, and an entitlement engine that's the brains of the operation, deciding who gets access to what. Each piece has a critical job, and to really see how they work in harmony, let's follow a single purchase on its journey. All right, so let's trace the path. We're going to follow the data from the exact moment a user taps that buy button all the way to the second they get access to your premium features. When you boil it all down, it happens in these three critical stages. First, the user kicks things off and makes a purchase right inside your app. Second, a digital receipt gets fired off to our unified system, which has the job of making sure it's the real deal. And third, once it's confirmed, the system gives your app the green light to unlock the feature. Simple as that. Now, let's zoom in on that validation step, because this is so important for security. This isn't just some quick check inside the app. Oh no, the unified system makes a secure server-to-server call directly to Apple or Google's own servers. This is how it knows for sure that the receipt is legit and hasn't been faked. It's your frontline defense against fraud. And here, folks, is maybe the single most powerful idea in this whole setup. The system makes a clean break between the product a user buys and the entitlement they get. So a user might buy a Pro monthly plan or a Pro yearly plan, but what does your app code care about? Just one thing: does this user have Pro access? This little bit of abstraction changes everything and makes your code so much cleaner. The source material really just nails it with this quote. That entitlement engine is the heart of the whole operation. It does all that messy mapping for you, so you, the developer, never have to write code that says, if the user bought this or this or this other thing. You just ask one simple question. Does this user have the Pro entitlement? Yes or no? Done. But hey, a subscription isn't just a one-and-done purchase, right? It's a living thing. It renews, it gets canceled. Heck, it might even get refunded. So how on earth does the system keep a perfect up-to-the-minute record of a subscription status over its entire life? Well, the system has two main tricks up its sleeve. The main one is using real-time notifications, or webhooks. Think of these as little text messages the app stores send out the instant something happens, like a successful renewal. But not all stores are that helpful. So as a backup, the system also proactively calls the stores to recheck the status of receipts, just to make sure nothing slipped through the cracks. It's all about making sure that data is always accurate. And that accuracy is completely non-negotiable. I mean, think about it. This system is the gatekeeper to your paid features. It has to be reliable. We're talking 4 nines, 99.99% uptime. Because if this system goes down, your paying customers suddenly get locked out of the features they paid for. And that Well, that's a five-alarm fire. And achieving that kind of reliability, that's a massive technical challenge. This isn't some simple little web server. This thing has to be built to scale to potentially billions of API calls, deliver updates in near real time so users get access instantly, and maintain security that's as tight as Fort Knox to stop fraud. It's a monster of an engineering problem. So it's really important to get this. A system like this is built on a series of smart trade-offs. There's no magic solution. You get this incredible simplicity in your own app, but you give up some of the nitty-gritty, low-level control. You get updates almost instantly, but you're still at the mercy of how fast the app stores send their notifications. You're basically choosing to hide all that mind-bending complexity from yourself and trust this robust, centralized system to handle it instead.
And that really brings us back to you and the app you're building. It forces you to ask a fundamental question. When it comes to getting paid for all your hard work, what do you value more? The absolute granular control of building every single integration by hand, or the beautiful, focused simplicity of letting a unified system navigate that maze for you? The answer to that question is going to shape not just your code, but your entire business.